You're listening to Pipebomb Radio with your host, Felix Olmedo.
Be the man! You gotta beat the man!
Austin James.
And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
And Nate Milton.
Trust me, trust me, trust me, trust me, trust me.
Bam!
Welcome, everybody, to a Halloween edition of Pipebomb Radio tonight. Running a little bit behind schedule, and I do apologize for that. But nonetheless, we are live tonight on this. Actually, we're about 3 days away, so we're pretty close to the Halloween date. I am way off. Anyways, welcome everybody, of course, and as joined with Austin, and I'm not sure if Nate's going to make it or not, but if he is, I'll catch him and we'll bring him on. How's it going, Austin? Yes, I know. I'm running a little behind schedule, but I'm here.
Well, no, you know the answer to my, when you ask me how I'm doing phenomenal. Because why wouldn't I be? Being, a person like me, I have to be doing phenomenal or I just won't be in action. That's just the way my life is.
Okay. That being said, since we know Austin is phenomenal, and I was going to ask you, what are you going to be doing for Halloween?
Doing something phenomenal. I mean, obviously it has to be that way, or it just won't be my type of day. I'm probably going to stay, within the confines of my household and stay out of, the Halloween scene, considering that, I dress up as a beach goer every single year for Halloween. I go up to the guy's door and then I knock on them and they say, "What's your Halloween?" I kick sand in their eyes and they don't want to give me candy. They shoo me away. I don't know why. It makes no sense to me. I guess people just don't like beach goers.
Okay. Now, let me see here. I'm assuming, and I'm just going to assume that this would be Nate calling in. I don't know for sure. Let's just bring him on anyways. Hello, you're on the air.
Yeah, this is Chris Gary at Fever Keeps It Real. I'm here waiting to get a chance to ask Chase Stevens, the current NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion, a couple of questions.
All right. Hang tight. We'll get him on here shortly, okay?
All right.
Thanks. All right. With that being said, you heard right, we are going to be joined by Chase Owens, who we were supposed to have on last week, but we have him this week. Tell us a little bit about him, Austin.
Yeah, Chase Owens is an international superstar, one of the best wrestlers in the world today, without a doubt. And actually, he's the NWA Junior Heavyweight Champion right now. And he's going head-to-head with one of the greatest professional wrestlers in history, one of the greatest professional wrestlers in Japanese history, New Japan Pro Wrestling legend Jushin Thunder Liger. Next Saturday night, November the 8th, and I believe it's going to be in the Sumo Hall. And let me tell you, Chase Owens has to have a lot of, inner strength to call out a guy like Jushin Thunder Liger. With all that man has done in the professional wrestling world for many, many years, decades. He's going up against somebody with a track record, and he's going up against somebody that has, the skills of a warrior, samurai, ninja. This guy, Jushin Thunder Liger, you know what I'm talking about. He's a legend. And
he had some great battles with Brian Pillman way back when.
Definitely, yeah. He was kind of the backbone of the cruiserweight division. Kind of one of the first few guys that were brought in. You remember Sonny Ono, former guest on Pipebomb Radio, was actually the guy who kind of bridged the gap between Japan and the United States to bring in people to WCW in the 90s. But Chase is definitely in for a battle that, you never know which way it's going to be with Jushin Thunder Liger.
Okay. Shall we go ahead and get the man of the hour, the man with the power, too sweet to be sour, on the show? I don't know why I said all that, but shall we go ahead and get him on? We'll get Mr. Owens on here.
NWA Junior Heavyweight Champion.
All right. Let me just go ahead and get up his number, and we'll get this going. Come to think of it, that's strange. This whole new setup that they have with Blog Talk Radio kind of throws me off a little bit.
Yeah, they're working against you. They're working to try to destroy you. No.
The reason I say that is because usually the old way it had the phone pop up on here, and now I don't see it.
I'm
so
sure
I'm like,
if you can figure it out. I know you usually have problems with this. It certainly won't be the last time, considering who Felix Almeida is.
I'm not joking, Austin. I wish I was. But let me go. I think we have Nate calling in now. Hey, Nate, how you doing?
Damn. What's going on, bro?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat with you, pal. I'm in the same boat with you because I'm trying to figure out why exactly it's not allowing me to call out for some reason. We may have a little bit of a problem, Austin. For some reason, I'm not able to call out. Is there any way that you can get a message to him to try to call in?
Yes, I can.
I apologize for the inconvenience, folks. We will have Chase Owens on here in just a moment. In the meantime, we'll talk amongst ourselves as Austin gets the message across. Nate, how you been, man? You staying busy?
I've been pretty good, man. Battling a little bit of a cold here. Work's been keeping me busy, though. I'm looking forward to our conversation tonight.
Absolutely. We're going into November here. November, of course, Thanksgiving. Are you dressing up for Halloween?
Not really. I've been invited to a couple parties, so I may throw something together last minute. But, some years I'll get really excited about 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time and playing this elaborate costume. Like one year I was Prince, complete with the boots, with the heels. But this year I think I might just hang out and I'll just be Nate for Halloween.
Well, if that don't scare nobody, I don't know what will. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I was telling everybody earlier, I was planning for Halloween. I go to Halloween sometimes, and I go as a beach goer, and I kick the guys, the sand in the guys' eyes, and they tell me to go away. I'm like, this is just a part of the costume. 3D is the big thing, these days. You have to go the extra mile. You try to stand out in Halloween, but I always get chewed off the property, and they try to hit me with search warrants.
Okay. I guess that was a joke. No, I'm kidding. I know you are. I know you're serious. But I believe, yes, we do. Here is our one and only guest, the one and only NWA Junior Heavyweight Champion, Mr. Chase Owens. Welcome to the show, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you all?
We're good. We apologize for the inconvenience. We were supposed to call you, but for some reason our phone systems are kind of going haywire tonight. And it wouldn't be the first time, right, Austin?
That's definitely true. It won't be the last either, considering you, George.
It is considering that I'm running the controls. But nonetheless, to kick things off, first, of course, we want to welcome you. And wanted to ask you a couple questions about your career, especially working out there in Japan. But I'll start right at the beginning here. And want to ask, at what age did wrestling kind of catch your eye, catch your interest, and wanted to pursue that as a career?
Well, I remember watching it, as far back as I can remember. But and then when I was at the age of 16 was when I came across the chance to train.
Okay.
Now, were you in any high school sports at all? In high school, did you do any not collegiate wrestling, high school wrestling? Did you do any high school wrestling?
Oh yeah, my dad was a high school wrestling coach, so I've been around wrestling and competed all through, since I was actually had my first wrestling match at the age of 5.
Okay. And I'm sorry, did you say something, Nate?
No, I was just thinking that's pretty cool, starting that young. And, I was wondering, we're going to get to Jushin Liger here in a second, but in terms of just watching pro wrestling and who were some of the guys that grabbed your attention at a young age, who were some of those performers?
At a young age, it was all, I liked Hogan, of course, and, Macho Man, Mr. Perfect, and then as I got older and got into it more, people like Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit and people of that nature. Brian Pillman definitely caught my eye.
Okay. And as you were growing up in the wrestling business, do you feel, growing up and you were watching it, what age did you actually start wrestling?
When I was 16.
As far as into professional wrestling, excuse me.
Yeah, when I was 16.
Okay.
Now, hitting off it right now, you're actually going to be heading into, without a doubt, one of your biggest matches in your career thus far against the Japanese professional wrestling legend, Jushin Thunder Liger, I believe. It's going to be in the sumo hall next week, the November 8th.
The sumo hall was last month.
Oh, last month, but what's the venue going to be for this month?
I'm not real sure.
But the show is going to be November 8th, but you're heading into one of the biggest matches of your career. What's your mindset going into this match against Jushin Thunder Liger?
Being the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion, I call myself the best pound-for-pound wrestler in the world, and and that's exactly why, we called out Jushin Thunder Liger, because he is, one of the best, and just a lot of hard training going into it, just trying to stay as healthy as possible before the end.
And with a guy like him, Jushin Thunder Liger's been around for a few decades, in professional wrestling, and they're going up head-to-head Jushin Thunder Liger in the ring next weekend. I think the first time you ever had a person like him. You just debuted recently within New Japan Pro Wrestling. What is your plans for the future heading into New Japan, and what do you have your sights set on as far as accomplishments?
The first goal is to, give everything I've got against Jushin Thunder Liger and walk out still the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion.
Okay. And at this point in your career, as you've gotten into wrestling more and more, do you see yourself with a wrestling manager by your side? And if you had the choice to choose one, if you were looking to see if you had one, if you had the choice to choose a wrestling manager, past or present, who would you choose? And or if you didn't choose one, why would you think that you didn't think that you would need one? If that makes sense, it's kind of a two-part question.
To be honest, I really like, being on my own for the most part. But if I had to choose one, probably go with Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Yes. He's a Bobby Heenan guy. That's awesome, actually.
Now, you're actually trained by Ricky Morton. How was that experience training with a guy like him and being the lineage that he has in professional wrestling?
Oh, it's awesome. I'm truly privileged to be able to, just get in a car and take the 10, 12, 14-hour car rides, in the car with a guy like Ricky and just sit back and listen to everything that, he has to say.
Now, was there anybody besides Ricky that took you under their wing to kind of make you the person that you are today?
Besides Ricky, beautiful Bobby Eaton actually lived close as well, and we took several trips with him as well.
Okay. I actually wanted to ask, if you've been around for a while, so you mentioned working with Ricky Morton, of course, Bobby Eaton. Has there been any advice that was given to you working with guys around, could be anywhere that you've been, that has given you advice that's kind of stuck with you all this time that you've been wrestling, and something that you can kind of take into heart and even up to now? I guess it's just the best advice that you were given that just kind of stuck with you all these years.
There's been a lot of great advice. I've been lucky enough to do training seminars and meet with, lots of very talented guys, Ricky and Bobby, and then I've done stuff with Lance Storm and Nigel McGuinness, who back in the end of July this year, Tom Pritchard, Les Thatcher. Just listening to all those guys and things they have to say. Wrestling is always a learning experience, and some guys get to that point where they don't think they can learn anything else. But there's always something that you can learn.
That's true.
Now, being a
Go ahead.
It was like being a part of the NWA National Wrestling Alliance with the true legacy that this the company has had for over decades upon decades. Where do you want? Is there a specific place you want to see it? You want to take it? The entire company as a whole in the future.
The NWA is back on a rebuilding process, and I think President Bruce Tharp has done great things to try to get the NWA back to the legacy that that it used to be. And I'm proud to be a part of it. Along with guys like Rob Conway and Jack Stain.
Absolutely, great talent. Nate, did you have any questions for Chase?
Yeah, I think Austin and I were on the same wavelength, because I too was going to ask about Chase competing in the NWA. But I think what I'll ask is, Felix mentioned you've been in the business for a while, but you're still very young. And is there something that Chase Owens today would tell Chase Owens just starting out in the business? What have you learned, I guess, is what I'm asking. And then, was the wrestling business what you thought it would be when you got into it?
It's definitely not what I thought it would be, just at the age of 16 and coming across this chance of a lifetime to become, a professional wrestler. It's a lot of harder work and dedication, than ever imaginable. When I first got into it, I just thought I'd be at these local shows, never in my wildest dreams would I think that I've been doing some of the stuff I've been doing and am doing now.
And you actually mentioned Bruce Stark just a second ago, and he was actually in the ring with you while you guys called out Jushin Thunder Liger. And over the past months and over the past 2 years, Bruce is definitely making his name known amongst the Japanese wrestling universe.
Absolutely. Has he become more of somebody that you've actually worked with more closely now? Has he become like I don't want to say manager, because I guess you can almost say he could come off as kind of like a manager personality per se. But what's it been like working with Mr. Tharp?
Oh, it's great. Before last year in Houston, I'd only met him one other time before that. So, getting to meet him last year when New Japan came over to Houston and San Antonio last October, getting to talk to him then, and then, really becoming where we, talk on the phone and text back and forth quite regularly, and then, of course, our time in Japan just a few weeks ago.
Okay. And at this point, if you actually could say, as compared to when you first got into the business to now, I'm not sure your mindset would be the same, but my question is, if you could say that you would have a dream, what would be your ultimate dream match that you would like to make reality if you haven't already?
I don't know, because I've faced a lot of guys, and, like you said, at a young age and in this career, I've been in the ring with some of the greats.
Absolutely.
I've been in the ring with, Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson, in tag matches, Bobby Eaton, Davey Richards, who, I still think to today is the toughest guy that I've ever been in the ring with. But, and dream matches, I'd go back to what, I said earlier, people like Benoit and Mr. Perfect and Eddie Guerrero.
Some great choices there. Guys, if you don't mind me putting you guys on hold for a second, I actually do have a caller that's wanted to call in and actually ask you a question. Would you be okay with that?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay. We brought him in here earlier, so caller from area code 281, you're now on with NWA Junior Heavyweight Champion Chase Owens. What's your question?
Good evening, Mr. Owens. I am Chris Gary, Fever Keeps It Real, and I would just like to ask you a couple of questions, sir, if you don't mind.
Not a problem, man. Go ahead.
Okay. First of all, I know you say you've been wrestling since the age of 16, and you mostly wrestled within the confines of the NWA promotion in the Deep South and Midwest territories, but I gotta ask, what's the weirdest place you've ever wrestled in front of? Like, as far as, who was cheering you or who was booing you, or if it was just like plain bizarre world so far in your career?
That's a tough question.
I understand. Take your time, sir.
I don't really know if I've had any of those, bizarro world moments, to be honest. I will say, I take that back. Just a couple weeks ago, in Japan, when I came to the ring, there was some people cheering, and and then even after I won, you could see people standing up and cheering.
I can understand that, Mr. Owens. And speaking of the match you had a couple weeks back against Bushi, who many mainstream fans would know as former TNA and All Japan wrestler Akira Kiyoshi Rajin, I just gotta ask, when you faced him for the first time, when you faced Bushi for the first time, were you kind of a little bit weirded out, thinking, he's a lucha libre wrestler, I don't know if I can take him? Were you kind of weirded out trying to prepare for the guy, is what I'm trying to ask?
No, I'm a pretty confident guy, especially, being in the ring with guys like Davey Richards, who, really tested me back in 2011, and I think that's where I really hit my stride, too, and really took off, was from that match.
All right.
Okay.
Well, sir, did you have any last questions you want to ask?
Well, no, and thank you for answering my questions, Mr. Owens. I wish you nothing but luck in you defending your title in a couple of weeks for a New Japan Power Struggle against the legendary Yushin Thunder Liger.
Appreciate it.
Have a good one. Well, that was cool. We thank him for calling in. Always welcome to have questions from callers, and we'll continue on here. If fans want to keep up with what you're doing as far as social media, what social media types do you have? Do you have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff? Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah. I have my Facebook, and then on Instagram and Twitter, you can follow me at NWA Chase Owens.
Okay. Do you have, it's a silly question to ask, but do you have, Austin gives me a hard time, but do you have Pinterest or anything like that?
No,
I'm sure
I haven't got into that.
Good for Chase.
I had to throw it in there, but
don't get it unless you have a vegetable garden or if you're making any fruits or something. Don't get a Pinterest.
Oh, shut up, Austin. Anyways, go ahead. Go ahead, Austin. You're next.
I was just saying, thank you so much for coming on tonight, and it means a lot. And definitely from a person like you with your wrestling background. I mean, you are one of the, I always say this, people talk about NWA Junior Heavyweight Champion Chase Owens, definitely one of the best in the world today. And your match with Yushin Liger definitely is something that people need to feast their eyes on and really take notice of, because New Japan Pro Wrestling next week November the 8th. Not sure of the venue, but I'm sure they have all the info on New Japan Pro Wrestling's website. But it's going to be something to see, definitely, and I hope to.
We will definitely showcase it on our website and on our social media. Once we hear word of it and how it went, we'll definitely shed some light to keep people up to date on how you're doing and so forth.
Appreciate it.
Nate, did you have any final questions for Mr. Owens?
Yeah, I do have one last question in regards to New Japan because, like Austin mentioned, it is a product that is rapidly growing, and some would say it's, the best televised wrestling right now, and they've got a great roster, with guys like Tanahashi, Okada, the Bullet Club, and I was wondering, with Chase, just some dream matches, because I think you and any of those guys I mentioned, especially Styles, would be a great matchup, but also in terms of New Japan's prospects in America, do you think that there'll ever be a day when we get New Japan, an Americanized version that can showcase this talent?
I definitely would hope so. If we can get that New Japan product over to the States, like you said, New Japan's, probably the best wrestling, with all those guys, AJ and Tanahashi and Okada. AJ's definitely a dream match. That's for sure.
All right. Well, you know what, Mr. Owens, we can't thank you enough for gracing us with your presence here tonight. A little chaotic in the beginning there, but we appreciate your patience with us. We want to wish you the best against your match with Jushin Thunder Liger, and hope you enjoy your evening, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Not a problem. Have a good night.
You too.
All right. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, NWA Junior Heavyweight Champion Chase Owens, as he pursues a match with the legendary Jushin Thunder Liger. I know Austin will keep tabs on that match for sure. I have no doubt about that. Austin definitely follows anything, everything, all things wrestling, not just WWE. If you don't believe me, if you follow him on Facebook or Twitter, you'll pretty much know.
Well, I mean, why have chocolate ice cream when you can have, vanilla, strawberry, guacamole? Is there guacamole ice cream? I thought it was
Did you just say guacamole ice cream? Oh, hell no. This is going to be trending on Twitter, guys. Hashtag guacamole ice cream.
Well, you know what? It might be a thing.
Lord.
You never know. In Mexico City, they might actually have guacamole ice cream, so don't knock it until you try it. Even though I never tried it before. I'm just saying, why have all these, one flavor when you can have, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Ring of Honor, AJPW, and all the other stuff they have in the world. There's so much to watch, and there's so many great talents that people might not have a chance to feast their eyes on, or haven't had the chance to feast their eyes on. There's so many great guys like Chase Owens, the NWA Junior Heavyweight Champion, who's heading up against Jushin Liger, probably the biggest battle of his life. And because Jushin Thunder Liger, that's a name that carries a lot of weight. Just like with so many other New Japan Pro Wrestling legends that has graced that squared circle that Chase is going to step into next week for New Japan Pro Wrestling November 8th.
Yes. And Halloween on Friday, and we've got who do we got coming on next week?
Next week we actually have on a former guest on Pipebomb Radio, the Southern Stomper Luke Hawks, and for those who know him, he's a man that carries no sugar in his pocket. He does not sugarcoat anything he says, and he never will, because that's just him. And I love people like that. We've had people, that come on here and they tell how it is, and that's how it should be, because that's the honest truth, and that's what Luke Hawk says. That's the man right there. And he's going to come on to speak about the Revolution Rumble November 8th. That's next Saturday night. Booker T, Hardcore Holly, he's going head-to-head with Hardcore Holly, Luke Hawk says, and Booker T's going to make an appearance, and along with Danny Flamingo, Matt Lancey, and Wildcat Heavyweight Champion, along with so many other guys that are just amazing what they do.
Luke has definitely been one of my favorite guests to have on for that reason that you said right there. Now, be it that we did have him on for a very short time last time, I know we'll have a little bit more time with him to kind of talk about his upcoming show and what he's been up to since we last spoke to him last year, as well as talking about working with guys like Hardcore Holly. Because from what I hear, Hardcore Holly, he's no joke. he's a badass. Just put it that way. But let's see if he can test his strength up against another one that's considered a badass, being that Luke Hawx. I would love to be there to watch that match. Let me just say that.
Well, no, Felix. Hardcore Holly does not pull any punches. He also has kicks, elbows. He uses his head. I mean, he uses every part of his body to just to tackle the guy. That's how he's done.
No, they're both super tough guys, and it'd be a great match to watch. And I mean, we've had Booker on the show earlier later. Well, I guess you could say midsummer when he was promoting his very first iPay-per-view. It'd be great to see Booker out there in New Orleans. And I think, Austin, you said you were going to that event, right?
Yes, I will be there.
Awesome. Well, there you go. Now, Nate, what's been going on with you, man? You've been super quiet tonight.
Oh, man, I just enjoyed that conversation. I think for those that haven't seen Chase, I had a chance to look at a lot of his work on YouTube earlier today, and and that's why I asked him the question about AJ, because if there's anybody in wrestling he reminds me of, it's a younger, taller version of AJ Styles.
Okay.
I think they're very similar to, like, if you remember AJ when he was in WCW or when TNA was first getting started, like, he's got all the raw talent in the world, and I hope he can put it together and take it to an even bigger level, because I think, he's one of these guys that I think has a passion for the business, and hopefully the hard work will pay off.
Well, his name
to kind of go with what AJ real quick, just to mention, AJ to me I always looked at him as the franchise of TNA, somebody who was like the Sting of WCW. But sadly, that relationship kind of fell apart. I'm sorry, Austin, I know I cut you off there, so go ahead.
No, you were defining Chase Owens. He's the crown jewel. His name reigns supreme. That's what that's why he calls himself what he does. And Bruce Stark was actually kind of leading Chase Owens in the direction for New Japan Pro Wrestling, like I was mentioning earlier. Bruce is really making his presence known, like to the T. I mean, he's really standing out.
I was going to tell you that, and I didn't want to mention it too much with Chase, but Mr. Tharp, he reminds me of one of the old school managers.
Amen.
He's got that colorful loud jacket that he wears now to the ring, and he's usually in the ring now with for instance, one of them would be Chase Owens or Rob Conway or some other guys that he represents. I get the feeling that he's not only the president, he's also a manager, like he has his own little stable.
Definitely. And speaking of stables in professional wrestling, one that just a couple months ago kind of broke away was the Wyatt family. Luke Hawx, Eric Rowan, and Bray Wyatt. But they're all going their separate ways, and we found out we found out which way Bray Wyatt went when he basically, probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my entire life, he turned into a spirit and came out of a lantern. And
you see the hologram that he did?
Yeah, well, no, it's not a hologram. You don't know that. We're not supposed to know about this, so you can't talk about holograms. It was a spirit. It was Bray Wyatt. Came out of the shining light and attacked Dean Ambrose, thus leading Seth Rollins to the victory.
Okay. What did you think about the main event, man? Did you think that situation was solved the way it ended, with Bray Wyatt coming in and ending that feud between Ambrose and Rollins? Nate, what are your thoughts on that Hell in a Cell?
I enjoyed it, except for the fact that it factored into the finish. I would have liked a clean finish, and then we get the Bray Wyatt stuff coming out with the Tupac hologram. I would have liked that a little bit better. But I do like the prospect of Ambrose and Bray. I think that breaking up the Wyatt family wasn't a smart idea, because I think the other two guys are going to end up floundering without Bray in the long run. But I do think that Bray and Ambrose will be pretty interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, I always say that everybody has their deck of cards, and if they play their cards right, anything's possible. And I know Luke and Eric Rowan, definitely Luke Harper, his background. He's been everywhere around the world in professional wrestling before going to WWE. And he knows,
you're right.
He knows, what to. He's definitely in a very educated being, but I mean, Luke Harper is going to do really well. I think if he finds his own path and carves his own way to go, he's going to be fine. Eric Rowan, I'm looking forward to seeing what he has up his sleeve and what cards he plans to pull out of his deck in order to make himself stand out more so than, even if this is possible, stand out more than a Wyatt family member, as much as those guys stood out. And they still do, but I mean, as an individual, how is it going to play out for them? As individuals, it's kind of like, where are they going to, lead themselves in the fourth? You know what I'm saying? Are they going to get lost and find their way out of it?
I want to see how it plays out because there has been a rumor, and I'm sure both of you guys have heard. The rumor is that what's his name? Bray is supposed to get the Ascension with him. Now, I don't know any truth to that, and if it's true, cool, and if it's not, hey, you know what, even better. Or would they just leave Bray on his own? Now, I still think if he's going to do this, maybe he still needs the entourage. I'm not sure. What are you guys' thoughts on possibly the Ascension, or maybe on his own, or maybe a different entourage?
The Ascension's going to do their own thing. They're going to come in and they're going to dominate. They're going to win. That's all they need to do. Because they're the Ascension. I mean, they did it time and time again in NXT until they were ultimately defeated. But I didn't see that. People are telling me they didn't. The Ascension to me, I think that they're undefeated, right, Nate? I mean, they're undefeated still. So, I mean, they're still going forward. That's what they're going to do. They're going to come in, dominate, and win. Bray Wyatt needs to be in his zone right now. That's what he needs to do. And I believe he's going to be always successful because he's a guy that just pulls things out of nowhere. I don't know where he gets his words from. I mean, just the way he says different things, he's unique. And he's going to continue with that.
I think they made him even more darker and more, I don't know, a darker version of him now. As he's been on his own, with his different viewpoints, and he's talking in tongues and just this whole new character type. Almost made him, maybe took it to another dimension of darkness, so to speak.
It's so fresh.
I enjoy it. I'm not complaining at all. Bray's been a very interesting character that I've been watching, and I just didn't like how they pushed him this year. As far as they give him this big hype, big push, or so we thought. Going into WrestleMania, losing. Going into SummerSlam, I believe he lost that one. Correct me if I'm wrong. But just the instances, it just seemed like they give him a big push and ends nowhere. Another big push, ends nowhere. And then maybe they're going to go about it a different way now, I hope. I would love to see where he goes with him because I'm definitely a big fan of where he could go. But moving on into the other Hell in a Cell match, which everybody complained and bickered and moaned, and I'm sure Austin had to come and tell me a few things and be like, I know you don't like John Cena and blah, 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 but you know what, that was a good match. And I'm not going to lie, it was a great match. It was a great match, for his the 1,600,750th match over the last 12 years. It just added another chapter to their match, and you know what? Maybe it could say that maybe that chapter closed because of the events that happened on Monday. Because now it appears, although Rollins has his eyes set on Cena, some snake eyes have their eyes set on him. And that being obviously Randy Orton. I thought that was a pretty sweet RKO he pulled out of Seth Rollins right there, and I know that didn't sit well with the Authority.
Well, I mean,
what you guys think of the possibility of a new face turn for Randy Orton?
Seth has been pulling out Orton has been pulling out some amazing RKOs over the past weeks. I mean, the last week against Dolph Ziggler on Raw, and basically turned the powerbomb into the RKO, lifted him up and in midair RKO Dolph Ziggler.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think it's going to be, the future is bright for Randy Orton. It's always going to be bright considering he's Randy Orton. He's awesome what he does. But I mean, for John Cena versus Randy Orton, Hell in a Cell, people weren't expecting much because they've seen the match time and time again. And it's funny, people complain about it, yet their matches are usually always good. Hell in a Cell, you come into expecting not much because you think you've seen it all, but they stepped their game up and they went to another level. In my opinion,
it was worth watching. I'm not going to say it wasn't. It was definitely worth watching the different the near falls after near falls, and it definitely added a new element to the rivalry. And dare I say, could this be the best rivalry of this generation, or would you say it would be Cena versus Punk? Or maybe I say Cena versus The Rock. I don't know. A lot of good choices there, because I know John Cena's got his new Rivalries DVD out pretty soon, if it's not out already, I believe. But he's got some pretty good rivalries, to say the least.
Yeah, I think that Orton probably, just because we've seen it 75 times, is probably going to go down as his greatest rivalry. And I think they missed an opportunity on Sunday, because I do think we're going to get the Orton babyface run, even if it's only, for a couple months. But I think Orton should have won that match on Hell in a Cell. I think that would have been a great jump start. And you could have even had, if you didn't want Cena just to lose outright, have the Authority cost John Cena the match. And that way you continue the story with John Cena having issues with Triple H and Stephanie, but you allow Orton to go against Brock, which is a match we haven't really seen in a while. And I think that'd be a fresh match, with this babyface Orton going up against Heyman and Lesnar.
Especially leading off to the fact that Heyman got an RKO out of nowhere. That kind of left a door open to a possibility. So I'm thinking 2015 has great possibilities. Excuse me. Especially with the fact that they're going back to what it was before, in the sense that the Rumble winner goes on to get the WrestleMania main event. They're getting rid of Elimination Chamber. From what I hear, they're switching it over to the summertime and creating a new one. I don't know if it's what it's called just yet, but I've heard that, and I think it's better that way. You put the chamber match in there, there's really no point to it. I mean, if you're going to do it, do it in the summertime, maybe even a SummerSlam match or what have you. But what do you guys think about the possibilities of them, the new replacement for Elimination Chamber?
I think it's unpredictable, kind of like Brock Lesnar, in the sense that 2015, I have no clue. Usually, you kind of see which way things might go, but with a guy like Brock Lesnar holding the WWE Championship, it's like everything's up in the air. You're not entirely sure how things are going to roll out with Lesnar holding the championship and who might be able to take him down. Have my sights set on Daniel Bryan, Dave versus Goliath. I mean, I know it's a timely story that happens, so many times in professional wrestling, but I think Daniel Bryan can definitely take out a guy like Brock Lesnar. But going off the subject here with Elimination Chamber, the original thing that asked me, I think it might be smart. I mean, I'm not sure, because I always consider the Elimination Chamber, especially the past years, as something that you kind of look forward to before WrestleMania. You're not sure what change hands in that match to see who might go against whomever at WrestleMania. Sorry. So you're not entirely sure with that type of match with Elimination Chamber. But going to the summertime, and like they used to do in the past, and kind of did it here and there, it might be a smart idea and more convenient.
I think that's something they could do. I always used to like Elimination Chamber when it was part of WrestleMania. Kind of like Money in the Bank back in the day, when it was just something that was a featured match instead of its own pay-per-view. But what I would do if I were running things, which will never happen, but I'd like to go back and take it old school and go with War Games, which is something that they own because they own all of WCW and all the WCW matches and pay-per-views and all that. And I'd bring back War Games or some of the other concepts.
They won't do that.
No, they won't. But they'll never do it. But it'd be nice.
The only reason being is because it's not a Vince McMahon creation.
Yeah,
it's the only reason why I would think that.
I didn't make that. I don't like it.
Well, I'm sure they take credit for it when they're successful. It's usually him,
Well, that being said, with all things considered, the fallout on Monday Night Raw was definitely interesting, and a lot of things that I seen coming. And I'll give you an example of what I mean. Mark Henry and the Big Show. You see when you see Show go out there and have a good match, what's the necessity of having Mark Henry there? So you think automatically, something's going to happen. I would have expected it then at the pay-per-view. In turn, it actually pushed over into Raw, and now we're going to see these big monsters go at it again. But for what point? What's the point?
I'm interested.
Because he didn't like the way he got tagged? These two big babies are going to get mad over who tags the hardest or what? I mean, he just got mad because he got tagged? Whatever, dude.
Come on. No. You put yourself in their shoes. You get slapped, hard on your chest or something, and he tags you in. That's kind of like disrespectful. I would want to, turn on that guy. Well, you slapped me. That's not cool.
You just don't want to be. You don't want to be in the Hall of Pain. That's all it is.
Well, with being like a guy like Mark Henry, definitely don't want to cross paths with him. But I mean, Big Show and Mark Henry in the past have had some really good matches, because they're, both two big guys, kind of formidable opponents. So it's kind of a, a match that that works out. But one thing is that I'm so up in the air about is who will take out Rusev. Big Show could not do it, and if I had any sights on who would do it, I thought Big Show could at least get an upper hand on things, but that wasn't the case this past Sunday.
I had two choices on that one.
My thing is, and I told Nate this last week, and all of you, Kurt Angle will be the guy to do it. I don't know how, I don't know when, but I think he's going to be the American hero who's going to take out the Rusev crush.
He would have been my first choice, but if things are going to continue to go the way they're going, from what I've heard, I don't know if there's any truth to it, but we'll have to wait and see in that case. But if that doesn't go through, it's going to happen with Cena. They're going to match him up against Cena just like they did for Umaga, God rest his soul, put him up against the main guy and have a match maybe at the Royal Rumble or one of the other pay-per-views, and he goes down to Cena. That's where it's going to happen, and then he'll go back to being a normal character, gets beat every now and then, and, That's how I see that's going to happen. It'll be Cena.
I agree. I think Angle's too unpredictable just in his personal life, and I don't think that the WWE wants those kind of problems. So I think it's going to come down to, I think it's going to come down to Cena and this is maybe a fallback option because the guy they've been building all of this stuff around in terms of WrestleMania is Roman Reigns. And the one thing we've noticed the last couple times Roman Reigns has been on TV is that talking isn't a strong suit. And they've kind of cooled off on him a bit, which I think is a mistake. They should have just done like some really cool video packages of him working out and all this other stuff, trying to get back to the WWE instead of letting him talk for 2 or 3 minutes at a time. So if by the time we get to WrestleMania and Ambrose is still hot and Bryan's back and you got Cena in the mix and all these other guys, maybe there's no space for Roman at the top of the card, and maybe you get Roman Reigns taking out Rusev in order to keep him hot.
Well, this year in WWE especially, they had some really big highs, but they've been really low. Considering the setbacks they've had with Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns, two guys that were on fire, and kind of got brought down due to a couple of injuries, which is, what happens, you just have to move on. But, I think they might have a little bit of trouble kind of picking back up where things have left off. But, I mean, judging from what's been happening in recent events, they're hopping away as best as they can. And I think it's been entertaining. I've been enjoying that they've been showing up on Raw and SmackDown and pay-per-view. It's been entertaining. But one thing is that I'm unsure of is, Brock Lesnar. We haven't seen the WWE Championship on Raw in the middle of the ring since the 2 weeks before the Night of Champions pay-per-view. Week before the Night of Champions pay-per-view was the last time the WWE Championship has been seen on Monday Night Raw. That's insane to me.
And that's a shame because, you know what, they build up this big monster, give him the title just so the fucker can disappear. Excuse my language, but you know what? That's what I'm saying. It's taken relevancy away from the titles. None of the titles mean anything anymore. None of them do. I mean, okay, he's a world heavyweight champion, and he's going to go off TV for several months until they can figure out who's going to face him, which was going to be Cena anyway. And then it goes back to you can continue on with the same argument that happened over the summer with Daniel Bryan being injured and having to be stripped of the title because he wouldn't be on TV for a few months. I mean, hello, do we see a problem here? I know I do.
Mm-hmm. And
Go ahead.
I was going to say that I think that when this first happened, when Brock first won the title, people were like, oh, it's going to be like back in the day when the champion wasn't defending the title on every show, and that's part of the thing that I thought was going to be cool about this. But if you look back at Hogan or Flair or some of the champions back in the day, no, they didn't defend the title on every show, but they were there. They were part of storylines. They were part of feuds. They were part of angles. They had a presence each and every week. Whereas with Brock, we don't see him for weeks at a time, and Heyman will come on, once in a blue moon and talk and keep us reminded that he's the guy that broke the Undertaker streak. But it's not the same as it was back in the day because there's no connection to your world champion and the rest of the show. And I think that's something that has really hurt in terms of building up these challengers.
I mean, obviously, Heyman isn't on enough because Felix isn't, crying as much as he used to when the Undertaker lost. He needs to be reminded more.
Hardy,
Paul Heyman should be on Raw a little bit more often, kind of remind Felix that Brock Lesnar is the one behind the 1 and 21-1. Obviously, that's what it needs to happen. But
and then you know what? I'm not the only one. People still say that's the biggest slap in the face to any wrestling fan, the biggest disappointment in 2014, and for that matter, in history. The biggest disappointing match of all time. Nobody wanted to see that match end like that. Nobody. Not one person wanted to see that except maybe Heyman and Brock, and maybe not even Brock.
Well, I mean, you have to understand, the Undertaker wanted that way. If the Undertaker did not want that to happen, he wouldn't have
his health
happened.
was at risk. There was no point in continuing on. So that's
well,
fine. Like I said, people can throw their little jabs in there, and yes, Austin does that quite well. But truth being said, I'm not the only one that feels disappointed, feels slighted that the match ended the way it did. No, I didn't want to see it that way, and I'm pretty sure I can speak for anybody else that didn't want to see it that way either. But it is what it is. I digress. We're going backwards. Let's go forwards.
Speaking of forwards, Brie Bella and Nikki Bella. Oh, no, guys, stay on there. Stay online. I know we're going to the subject here, but I mean, Brie Bella is now the assistant to Nikki. I think it's interesting. I actually think they stepped their game up this past Sunday night on Hell in a Cell. You guys probably say, "Oh no, they were doing everything. They were so terrible." No, I think it was pretty entertaining. I think what they're going to do going in the future is going to be interesting to see. And Brie being the assistant to Nikki.
Really? You know what? I would rather watch Ms. Dow and Ms. on the TV for 3 hours than have to watch anything to do with either one of those two Bella sisters. Because you know what? Truth be told, they're not even that great of actors. They're annoying as hell, and the only reason they have any relevancy whatsoever is for the men that they're dating and they're married to. That's the only reason they have. They're in the position that they're in now because of that.
Good for them.
That's just my opinion. And it's true to be told, they are taking advantages of the things that are given to them. They're not stupid by any means. They're obviously sticking with what they're doing because it's working for them. Didn't I care to see that Brie pack up Nikki's car and then have a thing dumped on her? Okay, that's going to be entertaining for what, about a week? I'm pretty sure they're going to try to come up with ways to outdo it, but it's just let it go. Enough already. Let them move on, do their own thing. She's going to be a heel, fine, let her be a heel. Let her give her the championship if you want to, because that don't mean nothing anymore anyways. It has no relevancy. I want something that's relevant to an actual championship that means something. Storylines that are not just thrown together at a whim, that can be stretched out and told. Brock and Undertaker, I'll just use that one more time. That one had some history behind it. So they're obviously their match had something to go with, not something that was just thrown together. They have history. If you have history and you can tell a good story, why not do it? Why throw something together like a Chris Jericho and Randy Orton because Randy Orton attacked Chris Jericho and hurt him? They got a match at Night of Champions. That's a good story? Really? Come on. I'm not trying to bash them, but I just want to see something better. And I know they can do it because they've done it before.
People need to give credit where credit's due. Brie and Nikki are getting better. I don't care what you're saying. They're getting better. I know. I've seen improvements. Over the past. And no, you guys are going to dish out on them all the time. But the thing is, I
but let me tell you something, Austin. You cannot tell me that you would not pop extremely big, mark out extremely huge if we see Karma come back and destroy those two little pain in the asses.
Well,
Tell me you wouldn't mark out and see Karma come back and destroy them.
Well, Maybe, I guess so.
Oh,
you know, you're hitting on a hard spot here. Karma's different, okay? Karma's different. She's a different species. And if she did come back, she'd probably destroy everybody. And that's just something that's life. That's karma. And karma is, you know, when it needs to be.
Yeah, you're right. I'll give you that.
So, no. Maybe Karma would be delivered to Nikki Bella, and Bree and Karma can have a tag team, you know, because Karma's, you know, and taking out on Nikki because of what Nikki's been doing to Bree over the past, you know, month. Karma and Bree, the newest tag team champions. Come on.
Oh, no.
Nate's loving this idea. Come on, get on board, Felix.
I don't think so. I don't think so. But I will say, I just wanted to definitely throw out there tonight, at least it gets a mention. I know, Austin, if I mention it, you'll mention it right away, is the fact the debut of Lucha Underground tomorrow night. Coming on TV. Yes. Hopefully somebody's going to be watching it. We can talk about it on the El Rey, is it the El Rey channel or something, or network or something?
The El Rey network. And it's going to be on Lucha Underground tomorrow night. I'm looking forward to seeing it. And it's actually it's in Los Angeles. I keep on telling Felix to head out to one of the shows because, I mean, their shows are for free. I mean, fans can go in for free. And because it's, I guess it's the whole entire, you know, paid network and programming, they have everything under control. But I think they tape like 4 episodes every single time they're there, like NXT does and TNA does. And they tape the episodes there, and then they show it for, you know, the next, you know, month of programming. That's what's happening tomorrow night. The debut of Lucha Underground, guys like Chavo Guerrero, John Morrison, Ricochet, who's going under the name Prince Puma, I believe, which is, I'm trying to remember his name. Ezekiel Jackson, but I believe he's going as another name by Tyrus. Not Tyrus, it's Brodus Clay's name. What is his name?
I think he's going by his real name, Ryklin, I believe.
Ryklon, that's it. Ryklon. That's what his name is. I don't know why I'm thinking Brodus Clay. They kind of remind me. They're 2 big guys. You know, I think it's pretty cool to have a tag team of Ryklon and Tyrus. It sounds good. Sounds really good, but I mean, Lucha Underground, El Rey Network tomorrow night, I believe at 8 p.m., same time as Impact Wrestling. But I believe Impact is going to be kind of heading off in a different direction because they don't have any tapings for the future at all. Their next shows are going to be in Manchester, England for the what is it? The tour they do for the UK. Right in January, there's no tapings after this episode. Like Bobby Roode versus Bobby Lashley, and that's basically it. And then I think they're planning on showing old episodes of Impact, kind of filling the spot, which, I don't know, you know, they're kind of, I don't know what's happening with TNA. It's all unpredictable to me.
Yeah, that's true. It's a shame. But you know what? Maybe Lucha Underground will step in where TNA's kind of slacked. Who's to say? You know, more competition out there, the more enjoyable it'll be for the wrestling fans. And who's to say what'll happen? You know, the future comes up. And, of course, like I said, with us coming into November, we've got some surprises in store. Definitely something for us to be thankful for. Any plans for we already talked about Halloween, but what about Thanksgiving? You guys going to be going anywhere for Thanksgiving? Hello, is this thing on?
You know, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I believe, you know, Thanksgiving we're giving thanks to all the Subway sandwiches and the Subway sandwich artists around the world.
That's what I was waiting for. That's what I was waiting for.
Well, no, Nate, they actually call themselves that. They call themselves Subway sandwich artists. They're artists, and you know what they are. They deserve the credit because they make some of the most fabulous sandwiches in the world, and I'll take catering from them any day for Thanksgiving over turkey and mashed potatoes and whatever you have for Thanksgiving. You know, green beans, turkey, and, you know, all that other stuff. I mentioned turkey before, but I mean, you know, the Subway sandwich is the way to go. I'll keep on talking about it till the day I die. And even then,
I'm sure you will. Whether you're on air or not, you'll type about it, you'll post it, you'll dream about it, you'll have your weirdo sandwich with your weirdo tea and watching your weirdo wrestling.
Don't make fun of my Earl Grey tea. It's always good in the early morning rain. You know, Sunday morning it's always good. Don't make fun of it. So.
Well, I wouldn't do that to you. Maybe I would just a little, but anyways. I'm going to go ahead and call it a night for tonight. we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. We've got big shows coming up in the next coming weeks. Next week, of course, kicking off for the month of November, Mr. Luke Hawks will be back to tell us about his upcoming show, tell us what he's been up to, and say who's, just give us the insight of what he's been up to for the last year when we had him on. So make sure you all join us for next week. In the meantime, anything we got to plug for anything coming up, guys? We don't have a show Thursday because it came on Monday. Thursday they'll be out of town. So, Not Your Mama's Radio Show will return next Thursday night, November 6th. Anything else we need to plug, Austin? Nate, anything we want to plug?
Go ahead, Austin. I know you want to promote the Bella Twins or Subway.
Oh Lord, get him started.
Eat fresh, but besides eating fresh, when you're not eating fresh, you can actually take your phone out. If you can do that, I mean, it depends on your physical limitations. And follow me on Instagram and Twitter at @the_Austin James. Why wouldn't you? Facebook, Austin Porsche. That's it. I mean, Porsche is my last name. It's not like the car, so don't spell it P-O-R-S-C-H-E. It's P-O-R-C-H-E. If you don't have any friends, which is understandable, I'll be your friend. Seriously, it's a good thing to have friends in life. Right, guys? I'm your friend, right? Huh? I'm a good friend.
Yeah.
Really? Come on.
I know you couldn't feel none of that, could you, Austin? No enthusiasm behind that.
We're friends like Batista and Rey Mysterio.
Exactly. See, we're friends till I powerbomb you. Which I wouldn't do that, obviously. Not what friends do.
You're supposed to be my friend.
I remember that bragging rights 2009.
Yes. You can real quick. You can check me out on the King of Sport. Every week, iTunes, Stitcher, Twitter @CosPod, KOS_POD, and also Facebook, Facebook.com/The Kings of Sport. That's pretty much all I got going on right now.
All right. Well, with that being said, we want to thank you guys for joining us tonight on behalf of Nate and Austin. We wish you guys a very happy and safe Halloween. And, of course, happy holidays. And in the meantime, keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars. Good night, everybody. Good night, guys.
Night, guys.
Good night.
All right.